Hey there guys! Today I'm going to tell you the story of my labor and delivery. If you have not heard, I just had a beautiful baby boy on July 31st at 11:42 a.m. Little 6-pound, 2-ounce, 19-inch baby boy, and he is perfect. I did throw a trigger warning on this video just because I am going to talk about severe preeclampsia. So if you know someone that had that, or if you went through it yourself, it can be a traumatic experience. I don't want anyone to dive into this video and then realize it's something that they shouldn't have clicked on. So just a heads up there. Also, our boy is not going to be on any videos. I hope you guys can respect that decision. I don't want him to be out in the public. We're not going to be telling you guys his name. So any cute boy name you can think of, you can just imagine it's that, and it's fitting. Maybe someday when he's like 35, we'll let him take the reins and do a video, but for now, he's staying off camera. But he's really cute. He could be in commercials, I swear. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so let's dive in. I went in for my 36-week checkup. Just went to the normal doctor. They took my blood pressure and it was rather high. They'd seen my blood pressure be high a few other times, so they were kind of monitoring the blood pressure and, you know, just making sure if there was anything that needed to be done that they were taking precautions. And because it was so high, they did run lab work that day. And then later in the evening, we got a phone call and they said, you know, with your high blood pressure and the way that these lab results came back, there's some high levels of some medical shit that I don't know the meaning of. Oh, and by the way, that's the other thing. I am gonna talk about some medical things, so I might say words like vagina or cervix. If that bothers you, sorry. Also gonna talk about some blood and things like that, so just another heads up. After hearing that, they wanted me to come back because of my elevated blood pressure and then the, you know, lab results, whatever was in there that they weren't digging. I went in the next day, went to just the regular clinic and did my blood pressure first. My blood pressure was so high, they said, hey, guess what? We're not doing labs here. We're sending you right over to the hospital for monitoring. Went from there over to the hospital. They hooked me up with a blood pressure cuff that was taking my blood pressure every 15 minutes. And then they did the labs over there. And they said that they wanted to admit me at least for 24-hour monitoring just so that they could see what my blood pressure would do. On Friday, they weren't really sure if they were going to continue to keep me. They were really up in the air. It was kind of back and forth, you know. Do we keep her and admit her? Do we let her go? My blood pressure wasn't stabilizing. It just kept climbing. So around midday on Friday, they're like, no, you're staying. We're admitting you. But because your baby is only 36 weeks and 2 days at that point, they wanted to keep me in the hospital until at least 37 weeks because 37 weeks, the baby is considered no longer premature. So I got that news and I was like, fuck, like I have to stay at the hospital for an entire week before we even, you know, possibly see baby, and I've got all this stuff going on and that sucks. And I've never stayed at a hospital before. I've never broken a bone. This was all very new to me and I was like, oh my lanterns. But I was like, you know, what can I do? I'm in their hands and it's the decision that they're going to make. So found out, hey, I'm in the hospital at least until 37 weeks. Then at that point, they're gonna start inducing me and, you know, a minute to win it until baby comes. Well, later on Friday, blood pressure again just kept rising. They said, you know what, no, this is not good. You know, they had diagnosed me with gestational hypertension and preeclampsia at that point. I can't remember the exact time frame of when it became severe preeclampsia, but it was definitely, I had preeclampsia and that's what they were watching for. They had me on an IV for magnesium, which was like, it made my mouth super dry and I felt super out of it and just weak and ugh, not good. So they decided they're gonna start inducing me on Friday. And the first method that they decided to do was called the balloon method, which I don't know why they decided to go that route because at this point my cervix was completely closed. They said it was basically like cement, and that makes sense because I wasn't due for another 4 weeks. And they're like, well, you know what, we're gonna try the balloon method anyways. because the balloon method is a way to get you dilated to like 4 centimeters super quickly. What it is it's 2 tubes that they insert into your vagina, and then into your cervix. There's 1 balloon that goes in there, and they blow that up, and then there's another balloon in your vagina that they also blow up. And it's not typically performed on people with a closed cervix, because of the situation that I was in with the, blood pressure and the preeclampsia. They were trying to get things, the ball rolling as quickly as possible. So I agreed to do the balloon procedure, not knowing, I asked, is this gonna be uncomfortable? Or, I said, is this gonna be painful? And they're like, it's gonna be uncomfortable. I'm like, okay. I didn't Google anything, luckily, because I was just like, I'm in the doctor's hands, things are gonna be good, trusting everything that they did. So I didn't have any pain medication. I wasn't on, they didn't numb anything up. They just put me in the stirrups, and they grab a, one of those things to crank you open, like, if you're a woman and you've gotten a pap smear before. God, I can't think of the name of it right now. But anyways, it goes in and they crank you open, and they just kept, this is the most painful thing I have ever felt. My whole body was convulsing. I was shaking uncontrollably. They start inserting this tube, and the doctor's like, oh, I can't get it. She's like, there's this other tool that I need. So she has the nurse call for this other tool to help her, I don't know, continue with the balloon procedure. And this whole time I'm just convulsing and shaking. My husband is there holding my hand. I'm staring at the ceiling, and I can't even talk, and I can't look at him. And I'm just in so much excruciating pain. They finally come in. It seems like forever, but my husband said it wasn't very long, but they come back with this other tool, and she puts that in there, and continue the pain, higher and higher. The doctor's asking, are you okay? Are you okay? And my husband's like, she's not okay. Like, she's like unresponsive just because I was in so much pain. And they finally, give up. So they take everything out, and I just am like, just staring, like, don't say anything, don't know what to do. I'm just bawling because I'm like, what the fuck was that? Why did you try that? The doctor's like, oh, I'm really sorry. I had it work actually on 2 other people today that had a closed cervix, and I was on a roll, so I was hoping that we could do it for you. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why would you try that? Anyways, I've heard after the fact from my husband that everything was just covered in blood from that procedure, and it was a fail, so it didn't work out. Okay, so on to the next form of induction. They started giving me this pill. It wasn't Pitocin. It started with like a T, I think. Again, I'm not a doctor, so all of this stuff is gonna sound very, surface level coming from me, whatever. I was just the patient. So they start me on this pill, and the pill is to, get the contractions going. They put me on that at like around 9 p.m. And so I'm having contractions all night, and they're monitoring the contractions, and they're monitoring the baby's heart rate. And it sucks. I mean, like, I'm just really uncomfortable. I'm like traumatized from the balloon procedure, and I can't sleep. I'm not allowed to like really drink anything because of the magnesium that's going in my IV. They don't want me to dilute the magnesium, and so they're measuring everything that I'm drinking. I have a catheter in, and they're measuring everything that's coming out. And I am so thirsty. I feel like I could have just jumped into a lake and just drank the entire thing. Oh my gosh, I've never been so thirsty in my life. So the contractions weren't really that bad. I mean, I don't know, I guess I don't know what my pain tolerance is, but it was nothing compared to how dehydrated I felt and like so traumatized from the balloon procedure. Anyway, so I didn't sleep all night. Then in the morning, there's a new nurse that comes in, and I swear to God, I'm not religious, but she was just this angel that swooped in, and I was able to talk to her, and I said, I don't know what's going on. Like, what happens next? What are the chances that I end up having a C-section? I want to try to deliver vaginally, but, you know, what's going on? Like, how dire is this situation? And she said, honestly, we could continue to, you know, induce you, and it could take, you know, hours, it could take days before you're eventually probably going to have an emergency C-section anyways, because she checked my cervix again and still completely closed. So I said, well, can I opt in for a C-section? Is that something I can do? And she said, she's like, yeah, I can talk to the doctor. And she's like, honestly, I think that's probably the best decision that we can make. And I said, okay, great. When she went over, she talked to the doctor said, yes, let's go forward with a C-section. They had 2 other C-sections before mine. So, and I was at a mother baby center. So all they do there is deliver babies. So my C-section got scheduled at 11. They kind of told us what would happen. They said, we'll get you all prepped, we'll wheel you in, and then your husband is, after about 15 minutes, then he gets to come back there and he'll be with you. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. So 11 o'clock comes around and they're like, all right, we're gonna bring you in. And I'm like, okay, let's do this, you know, like, I'm having the baby, like, let's go for it. And they're like, do you think you can walk? And I'm like, sure, I don't know. I haven't gotten up for 24 hours because I have a catheter in, but let's try it. I go to stand up and I immediately fall into the nurse's arms, and they're like, all right, I guess we're wheeling you in there. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So they put me back on the bed, they wheel me into the surgical area. My husband is, you know, left behind because he's gonna have to wait for me to be prepped. I get in there and they give me the spinal, which numbs you from your chest down. And as soon as the spinal goes in, baby's heart rate drops. And so they had to do what they call a splash and slash procedure. Basically, they put the spinal in, his heart rate dropped, they threw me down on the table and sliced me open. He was out within 2 minutes. My husband was not allowed to come into the room because of the emergency situation that happened. So I'm laying back on the table like Jesus, and during the C-section, you don't feel any pain, but you feel pressure and you feel all this tugging and pulling, and they're like pushing on your chest, and then, you know, they're like sewing you up, and oh my gosh, it's madness. I would have never thought that that was gonna be what would go down. I mean, I had no idea what to expect. I had no birth plan. My only plan was that, you know, things will change and things will be crazy, which they were, but I wasn't expecting this. So after that, I'm strapped down and I'm like, where, you know, is the baby out? Is the baby okay? Where's my husband? What's going on? You know, because they don't explain it to me that it's an emergency. They just do what they gotta do. And then they're like, the baby's out, the baby's fine. I'm like, okay, where's my husband? Where's my husband? Finally, Matt comes in and he's just like white as a ghost. I can only imagine like how terrifying it is. He thought that he was waiting for like 15 minutes to be able to come in with me. And here he's waiting out there for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, doesn't know what's going on. Finally, they bring him back and I'm like, you know, like, did you see the baby? Is the baby okay? And he's like, yeah. And then like he comes over to me, and apparently the first thing that my husband heard when he gets back there is, yeah, the baby wasn't breathing. Or the baby wasn't breathing for 6 minutes. And he's like, what? The baby wasn't breathing, so he's worried about brain damage and all that. And they're like, no, well, he didn't breathe on his own. We assisted him for 6 minutes, and now he's breathing on his own, and he's great. Or like, so my husband is just like terrified, you know, like that something's wrong with the baby, and then like what's going on with me, and he's just, oh my God, it's awful. And then after that, it was like, okay, we're done. We're gonna bring you up to recovery. And I'm like, okay. And they go, do you want to hold your baby? And I'm like, my arms are just shaking, shaking, shaking. I'm like, I'm gonna drop the baby. Like, I can't hold the baby. Still numb from my chest down. The spinal lasts for like hours. So the only thing available was my arms, but they were shaking like crazy. And they're like, all right, no problem. We'll just let the baby lead the way, lead the train. So they put him in like his little, you know, station thing, and they're pushing him first. And then I'm still in the bed, and they're pushing me in the bed, and my husband's terrified and I'm terrified, and we're just both like, what the fuck is happening? We get me to the recovery room, and they do some monitoring of the baby. He is perfectly healthy, doesn't need to go to the NICU, doesn't have jaundice. He holds his own bottle. right away. It's adorable. He is just perfect. And so then I went into, you know, recovery at that point. I was pretty out of it for the first couple of days because of the C-section, but yeah, I mean, all is well that ends well, and it was a very traumatic experience for me, but we're through now. I ended up staying, so we were there. Like I said, he was born on July 31st at 11:42 a.m. And then we were discharged on Monday, August 2nd, around 4 or 5 p.m. And yeah, and now we're at home and we're living it up and things are going great. So that is my labor and delivery story. Way more of a roller coaster than I could have ever imagined. Super traumatic immediately. I'm starting to get over it, I guess you could say. My blood pressure has come back down, thank God. I also have lost almost 30 pounds immediately, all because of like the water weight that you carry. So that can be another sign of preeclampsia, is high blood pressure, you know, rapid weight gain. And so, I mean, these are different things that, you know, they were watching, and I mean, I'm so thankful that the doctors saw what they saw and did what they did, minus the balloon procedure. Fuck that. If you are ever induced and they give you the option to do a balloon procedure, ask for medication or some sort of numbing. And if you're not dilated, don't do the balloon procedure. How about that? That's what I got for you guys. I thank you so much for listening. Loving all the kind words that I'm getting from you guys, all the great advice that people are offering. Honestly, we haven't gotten any unsolicited advice that was super upsetting, so knock on wood, but that's good so far. And me and baby are happy and healthy, and dad is super dad, and things are going good. I hope you guys are having a great day, and we will see you soon. Bye.